Hello. Okay, let's see if this is all working fine for me at this end. Hello, if you can hear me. Hello. Yeah, so that's all working fine. So hi, Chris here. I don't need these now on. Welcome to Dark Days Radio live stream, Twitch stream. Today we are going to be looking at a few things, talking about a few things, painting a few things. Where are we going to start with? We're going to be looking at painting. Ooh, can you see that? I need to. Oh, where's my head? There we go. Space Hulk. Yeah. Okay. So the reason for Space Hulk is because James, who came with me to UK Games Expo to help me out, gave me that to paint ages ago, and I will be using these new things called the Citadel Color Contrast paints. Okay. So they're a new paint formulation that Games Workshop brought out that allow for quick, speedy painting. So we'll get into that a bit later. The other thing I'll be just briefly chatting about is how this works. Blackstone Fortress, which is a Warhammer Quest game by Games Workshop set in the 40k universe. And to start with, though, we're going to talk about good old UK Games Expo and World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness, things that have been going on with that, and things coming up from the podcast, and things to look out for. So, obviously, if you're watching this, hello. Obviously, there's like two viewers. One of them is me anyway, checking my own stream. So, you know. So yeah, let's start with UK Games Expo. So UK Games Expo, bigger than ever, filling more halls than ever, a lot more organised play. I went along with James as my co-host, and James was really running around doing a lot of the interviews. I was more involved in, say, running some demos, running a scenario for Onyx Path, and then also running our live UK Games Expo live 10th anniversary panel podcast with guys from Onyx Path, White Wolf, and Modiphius. So if you haven't listened to that, please listen to that later. There's a lot of good content in there about Fall of London, about Chicago by Night. We talk about Chronicles of Darkness. We talk about the Contagion Chronicle, how the Contagion Chronicle tournament went on that Matthew Dawkins was organising. We talk about also Cult, because Modiphius is a distributor for that, and we will be recording this weekend for Dark Days Radio, so that'll go out shortly afterwards. A review of Powered by the Apocalypse game. So we'll be looking at Cult, we'll be looking at City of Mist, we'll be looking at like Blades in the Dark, I think, or something like that. So so other impressions of UK Games Expo, lots of good stuff going on, lots and lots of games, lots of cool new demos, and some new things. I need to say thanks to Scale 75, those guys there, for giving me a freebie, and James freebie of Fallen Frontiers. I've played that recently, the new edition, and obviously had the miniatures for a while for the first edition. Wonderful game, works really well, nice miniatures. Obviously I have tons of their paints here that you can't see yet. So there's more stuff coming out for them. And they gave us also a game to review, which is like a small 15-minute board game. So we'll get into that. I think it's called Age of Ruin, but James will be reviewing that one. Parabellum just sent me. I briefly chatted to them at Expo. They sent me a free box game of their new Conquest. So I've got all the minis. I need to put them together. Yeah, more stuff to paint. Basically, that's a very much classic Warhammer fantasy battle system with kind of elements I've seen from Rakan systems, like from Ragnarok. So that was good. But the meat of my time was doing World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness stuff. So for World of Darkness was Vampire 5th edition, and that involved what? I was running demos, ran 3 demos in total in the space of about 2 hours. 2.5 hours, maybe 3. So I took the Make Blood Boil scenario, which you can download for free on the Darker Days Radio website, and I cut it down to one or two scenes, so that players can get the main, meat of the rule system and get into it. And sold a couple of copies off the back of that. I'm really happy that I did that for Modiphius. That was really cool. I really enjoyed running those demos and seeing different reactions to it. I think it really helps having a demo that's set in the UK, in Manchester, because then the players, being mainly UK based, European based, really got a feel for the game and what it can deliver. I then had only time, so I did 2 demos like that. I only had time for 1 demo for these guys. They were really interested in the new system. They'd already played the original system. So I was like, right, I don't need to tell you anything about Vampire. And just sat them down and went through the dice system. Because once you got that, they were sold. So that was brilliant. And it just shows, I really love the V5 system. And that ties into other things that I'm doing, because there are other games that use a similar type of system. But we'll talk about that at maybe another day. Then with Onyx Path stuff, I ran the Geist scenario for the Contagion Chronicle, and that involved this setting with set in Paris, with like riots and so forth. And Mike, one of our hosts for Darker Days Radio, is helping me tidy that up ready. So we'll be publishing that on the Storyteller Vault. So you will be able to download that, and it's perfect again for convention games. It's perfect again for one-shots, or you can slot it into your own chronicle with chopping some and changing things. I mean, you could even remove a lot of the Parisian things. You might have to rewrite some ideas in there, but it would work. So that was a really good fun thing to play through. Really hilarious knowing that Matthew Dawkins, we took me and Clara to one side to get as many notes about how we ran Vampire, how we ran Geist and the other games, so that you could incorporate things more fully into the grand finale of the Contagion Chronicle, where so basically the tournament worked like this. You had a Geist scenario, a Vampire scenario, a Promethean scenario, a Werewolf scenario, and a Changeling scenario. And we had John running the Promethean one, Chris Allen running the Werewolf one, Clara running the Vampire the Requiem one, and Steffi Devan running the Changeling one. So one player from each of those sessions, because all those sessions ran at the same time, would go through to the final scenario. So you had all these supernatural creatures teaming up against the villain. Happens that the Sin Eater, also the Sin Eater who comes through, gets teleported to the Antarctic to fight, also has the Slasher that he was up against turn up there. And so the Slasher actually made a significant contribution to that scenario. So that was really funny to learn and to help Matthew with. But you can learn a bit more about that on the UK Games Expo episode that you can download now. There's also interviews that James did with the guys that make up the UK Indie RPG League. So there are companies like UFO Press, there's Rowan Rook Descartes, and who make Spire, and what's the other one? Black Armada. So they were talking about their games being indie publishers, and there's more of their books are making it into the friendly local gaming stores. UFO Press, I've seen their games now in my local friendly gaming store, so that's all happening. That's really good to know. Obviously, big thanks to the guys at On Tabletop who let us take over their live stream for a little bit. We invaded it, got interviewed by Ben, and we chatted about Cult and Vampire and everything. And yeah, it's just really good. And going for 2 days is not enough anymore. So yeah. And I picked up Blackstone Fortress because it was on discount. So yeah. Let's say, what can we say then about Blackstone Fortress? Let's shift a bit of gear. Blackstone Fortress is a cooperative game. It can be played 5-player, where 1 player is the bad guys. It is dungeon crawling in a sci-fi space station, an alien space station known as the Blackstone Fortress. It plays really well. All the characters play as you would expect. The big robot with the assault cannon kills everything in sight. The dude with the character with the flamethrower is just as deadly and create walls of flames. The Psycho is a good, he's not going to kill people, but he's going to support people and make them hard to kill. So that's also really cool. So yeah, that's been good. I've really enjoyed playing the first mission of that, and the miniatures are amazing, and I've got a lot of painting to do. Which really leads us then into the meat of this, which is we're talking about these contrast paints. So I've got, let's shift over to a different camera shot, and you can see things a lot nicer then. Hello. Right, so what have we got here? We have got our contrast paint, Blood Angels red. Let's just get a bit more light on that. We have got Basilicum grey. So you can see why I've got that to do black armour, black fatigues, for Chaos Space Marines and so forth. Snakebite leather, can't go wrong with that. Going to use that for a lot. And Shaish purple. So this is a purple colour which is going to be perfect when I prime and paint Gene Stealers. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint some Blood Angels Terminators that you can see here. Let me get into camera. You can see that all right? Yeah, that looks pretty solid gold. I might bring the camera around behind me or something. Anyway, so the point about the contrast paints is they are kind of an ink and a wash. And what that means is that it will tint a surface and change its color. And as a wash, it will then give contrast and go into all the grooves. So I've seen this used on a couple of things. It can also go over metallic paints and has very good effects. So we're going to get a brand new pot of this going. And I'm going to use a pipette to get a lot of this because I want to use a lot. Because the whole point about this stuff is, you can do one thick coat. Sorry, so I'm just cleaning off the off that. Right, so one thick coat means I can use a big brush, which seems crazy for this. So here goes. Hello, more viewers. If you just join us, we just chatted briefly about what happened at UK Games Expo and stuff. Obviously, you can see just here is my coffee, so warn me if I'm about to put my brush in there. Most it'll be too late. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some of this on the brush, and we're going to just start applying it. So, well, you can see that okay. So here we go. There we go, that's what we want to see. So as you can see, it already is tinting that grey primer. So I use the Vallejo grey primer, but you can obviously use the official Games Workshop one if you want. And I'm just slapping this on, and it's already having a wonderful effect of turning everything lovely and Blood Angels red. So it saves me having to airbrush it on. You see that good? Obviously I'll take pictures of this once I'm done. And the other thing is, it's going into all the grooves, and I'm not going over the entire assault cannon because I want to do some other colour. But the point is, it's going into all of the grooves and it's adding contrast as well. So there's different components to this. So there's clearly an ink part component, which is tinting the model. And then there's another component which is obviously like a wash, which is going into all the gaps. So the way this will dry, it will have it will dry in different rates. So the thinner part is going to like tint everything. The thicker part is going to contract and go into all the grooves there. So you can see there's definitely different types of colours in this, and it's absolutely freaking awesome now I'm using it. I'm a convert. Obviously I'm going to be painting a lot of armies with this a lot quicker. I really need to get one of those, the Wrath and Rapture box for Age of Sigmar to get the Khorne and Slaanesh demons, because I paint those really quick. The other thing I forgot to say about Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition, we are in the process of writing another freebie scenario. So if you've been on our Twitter or been on our if you've been on, wow, you can really see that on camera now, can't you? Yeah. Oh, let me bring this in a little bit more. Yeah. Something pretty good that. So that's too close. That's your magic point there, isn't it? You can see that. Wow. So yeah, what we're writing is a follow-up. And if you've been on Twitter and Instagram, it's called what is it called? It's called the Araman contract, and it will feature information about Manchester and the vampires in that setting for V5. And as part of that, we are delving into the Ashira. So if you don't know what the Ashira are, and you're fairly new to Vampire, and you've not read much, or you've not read like the Camarilla book, which is back in print from Modiphius, by the way. The Ashira are like the Middle East equivalent to the Camarilla. Now they utilize, or at least they base their tenets, their pillars, as they were, their code of conduct, their traditions around the pillars of Islam plus other ancient Persian, Middle Eastern religions. And so that gives you a very different flavor of how the clans operate in that area. Obviously, one of the most important clans of that area is the Banu Hakim, but they're not the only ones, because obviously all the clans have an equivalent there. So you know, have some sort of representation there. So the plan is to kind of represent, or at least present some material and use some of it in the scenario about what are the Ashira like in Manchester, because Manchester in the UK has a fair population of of Middle Eastern people from places like Turkey and Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, so forth. And so it'll really give a good show that not all vampires in Manchester are just, European. Okay, we're just slapping that paint on. Sorry, I just took that out of shot. You can see how that is coming out a lot better. I should really zoom that in a lot more. But you can see it there quite well. And we're just slapping this paint on, and it's doing bloody amazing job. So my plan is I'm going to slap this on, get the shading done, and then I will do other stuff more than likely by hand. But all my hard work is effectively done already. I will do some degree of highlighting, I think. We'll see what the end result is as these dry and shade themselves. They're crazy paints. So yeah, the Araman contract is going to be free to download. And my plan is, I'm waiting to get finalization of the event, but to run a demo using that demo event using that, so there'll be multiple people running demos somewhere local, like we did last time. You know, last year we ran demos in Manchester at Fanboy 3, so I'm looking to work with them to do the same again. And also run some other games too. Right, we're almost done this guy. I think we've got almost every surface. You can just really be liberal with this and you get such a wonderful effect with it. I mean, you might want to be cleaner with how you're applying it if you're looking to use contrast paints for every detail. I'm using this just as my quick ass base coat because it saves me having to airbrush and do 3 or 4 different shades of red just to get what I want, whereas this is Blood Angels red just out of the pot and it's just insanely good. Right, so let's get another one going. Let's do the dude with the, oh, we don't want them to fall down over on themselves. That would be bad because it will screw up stuff. So let's take the blue tack off the base of him and then he can stand up on the box there. And yeah, as I said, we're going to get out the Geist scenario shortly. I think I'm doing a final look through on that, and then we'll add some flavor text that we still got to do, and that will be available to download on the Storyteller Vault. Yeah. So yeah, if you're watching, you've got any questions you want to ask me about any of the games, by all means do so, whether it's, you know, Vampire, World of Darkness. I'm pretty good on generic World of Darkness. Or Chronicles of Darkness, I'm pretty good on that front. Or if it's something that's a bit more Games Workshop-y, because obviously I've finished recently running Warhammer 4th edition by Cubicle 7, and it's great stuff. I do have opinions of the MMO Bloodlines. I think it looks great. I've never played the original. I think you know, the thing is, people have nostalgia for old games, and I do too, and I never played the original, so I don't really have much drive to want to play the original because I haven't played it. So I don't think playing it will give me much enjoyment because, you know, it was a product of its time, and when you look at it now, it looks a bit goofy in places. But the new one looks fantastic graphically. Clearly, there's different ways to play through it. Whether you want to play as a combat monster or be something more social, which is great. So yeah, it'll be interesting when it finally is out, which is what, like next year? Yeah. I mean, graphics aren't everything in gameplay. I mean, I play things that aren't graphically intensive either. You know, I play, like, one of my favourite games is Don't Starve, because it's a nice little puzzle game. There. But yeah, you can really see how that's coming out. You see the darker areas where it's contracting into, and I think as it dries, it gets darker in areas and lighter in other ones because of the way it contracts and pulls away off surfaces. Because of it's just the magic of mixing paints that have different properties in the right way. So you take advantage of the surface tension. But yeah, it looks like a good old Vallejo primer wins. Let's see. just, sorry, my arm's in the way because I'm just going to. Chatting and painting. Right, I guess we hit another one with some paint. Who are we gonna go for? Still a bit Captain, yeah. It's quite funny I'm painting Blood Angels because they're like vampire space marines. Yeah, and I highly recommend if you can find the Adeptus Astartes. It's called Astartes. Is a YouTube series on. There's like 4 videos, and I think really do capture Space Marines quite well. What else can I say? About V5 right now. So yeah, I'm looking to try and push the rules where I can to its limits of what I can do with it. You know, I've already got in my own home games, I've used the rules to represent and simulate Risen. So Risen, if you're not too sure what Risen are and you're new to Vampire and World of Darkness, Risen are ghosts that embody bodies. And they are essentially kind of like the Crow. And, you know, the fun thing about them, mechanically, at least in the old books for Wraith, is that mechanically they operated in some respects very similar to vampires. And they could actually learn the basic physical disciplines as well off vampires. So it brings into question a lot of things about what is the relationship between the dead and the undead and animated bodies and so forth like that. Is there some inherent element of them that is similar because of the nature of a dead soul animating a body? So that's something that we've talked about a lot on Dark Days Radio. So you can see this red is going on really easily over this grey undercoat and is, you know, taking to it quite well. So if you've got tons of miniatures of whatever they are, you can really go to town with it and have a lot of fun. Other feedback of Vampire when I was doing demos. Interestingly enough, a lot of the people I did demo to had never come across, you never played Vampire before, never played a World of Darkness game before, or a Chronicles of Darkness game before. So that was really refreshing to have such a blank slate to really get across what the game is, you know, given, you know, the hoo-ha with things. So I think, and obviously that's where the main growth is with any hobby is, you know, it's all well and good to like try and satisfy old assholes like me with gaming. But you know, I've got limited money because I've got other things in life to deal with, you know, as do we all. But people that have, you know, younger people generally have a bit more disposable income, and they're the people that, you know, are going to pick up a new edition of a game and then run with it and, you know, gonna support it longer, because we older players will generally go, oh, I don't like this edition, I've got already the version I like, I'll play that. And, you know, that's fair for everyone. So it was good demoing to people that had never played Vampire before. And that also happened with the Chronicles of Darkness game for Geist, is I had people that were totally new to it as well. So yeah, it's always nice getting to seeing people's reactions to the game when they're completely new and inexperienced with the setting. They have no preconceptions about what the game is or anything else, and you can see how they enjoyed interacting as their vampires in a very different way to maybe some of the other roleplay games they would have been playing at UK Games Expo, you know, like, you know, your classic Pathfinders and so forth. Right, Okay, let's have a. So we've done 4 of these guys, and this guy is drying. Jesus, stuff dries. Is drying fairly quick, and as you can see, can you see that? Can you see where it's shrinking into? I've got missed a bit there. Come on, there we go. But it's shrinking into it and shading it. So what I will be doing is more than likely is applying a black kind of pin wash in places to give some further shading. But this is really quick and easy, and it's great. It's really good. Can't wait to do all those bloody gene stealers with this. That purple's gonna be good. So I'll think about what spray I do get for that. I'll mostly still go with a basic grey. I can always add an earthy tone in by doing there's a medium you can get for thinning contrast paints, because thinning with water is different to thinning with the same medium. Let's see what's going on in the world. Funny, right. Let's see what else is going on. I'm just having a look at, tapping on the void, see what's going on. You're just giving me with a paintbrush in my mouth right now. Yeah. Cool. Great. Yeah, brilliant. Check my email. Nothing much going on. Back to it. Right. So let's do the same with this guy. Oh god, I shouldn't use my... Be careful with this stuff because it will get everywhere as well. I'm running out a bit, so let's get some more. And there we go. So yeah, you will mostly get through contrast paint quite quickly looking at it, because you're not thinning it like a traditional paint. You're using it fairly well, depending upon what you're doing. You're mostly using it neat from the bottle. Okay, so you will get through it on an army, but I think you're mostly getting a lot of bang for your buck out of it, to be quite frank. Because it really is, you can just see it just coats and it gets into all those crevices and you get all that detail. Now you may go, well, I could just spray it Blood Angels red, but you're just not going to see all the... It's not going to shade it in the same manner. Okay, you're just going to get very blocky color with no definition. Think about what I'm doing the flamer. So my plan is I'm going to get all these guys done in this sitting, which will happen. And we'll chat about other games as well. So yeah, Chig and myself are going to record an episode about Powered by the Apocalypse, which is a system I didn't really get until I read Cult. I found City of Mist a bit jargony, but the thing is that Powered by the Apocalypse is jargony. It codifies a lot of the rules you normally take for granted in a roleplay game. So when you just have that conversation with your GM and then you go, all right, well then I'll investigate and do this, right? and I roll this. You say you investigate and you roll it, but like the jargon of Powered by the Apocalypse is everything is a move. Literally everything is a move. Talking to someone is a move. When you don't think, oh, is that a move? Is it? It's a bit strange, but once you get used to reading it that way, it makes sense. So both game systems run off it. Cult and City of Mist, but they use it in slightly different ways to achieve different goals with their storytelling, and they add extra rules on top to get the right feel of the game they want. Let's do this guy. So as you can see him nice and grey, flat. Now normally I do something which allows for quick shading called zenithal priming. So zenithal priming is where you shade, where you spray a black primer followed by a grey primer at 45 degrees to the model. So you black the entire model in first, then you spray grey on top of it, and then you spray white mainly from just the top. So that way you get that gradient of shading immediately from white to black via grey. And on top of that, when you paint, if you thin the paint that you're using, you immediately get the illusion of shading and shadow and highlights and everything else. Now you could do the same with using your citadel color here, your contrast medium. You could also do that rather than doing just a straight grey prime, but I'm doing it as they say out of the books, and I'm going by the numbers. And these are Blood Angel Space Marines in Terminator armor from Space Hulk, so I was like, yeah, I'm going to pick up Blood Angel's contrast paint. So yeah, you just got to be really liberal with this stuff, and it just does the work for you. So James, if you're watching this, you paint stuff really quick now. All those tricks I was telling you about layering and shading and all that mean jack shit. You can just do this and get a fantastic looking tabletop result. And that's the point. That is the point. What we're achieving here, what we're going for, and it's just another tool in the arsenal for painters like who do more advanced techniques. I do more advanced techniques, at least I try to. This is just another tool in the shed for painting miniatures, but for people that want to get a quick result, this is great stuff. Like, look at that guy. Here's Blood Angels Red with shading, and that's going to contract and fill in gaps and make areas look darker, areas look lighter, and it'll just look badass. So let's have another look at the one that's drying here. You can see him. You can see the shading. I didn't take the mold lines off very well on these guys, but they are for just box game, so I don't care. But that's all drying in. All that darker shade is going into the grooves, and you can see. So all I'm going to have to do on this is like let's say like a more orangey Beherit red, an orangey red as an edge highlight. And they'll look freaking gold. Right, let's carry on. What have we got next? So as I said, we're going to get all these done in a sitting. Meaning, if we come on and you see, oh, hold on, there's this twat painting miniatures, and he's maybe talking about a vampire. Ask me some bloody questions, right? I am free to answer anything you want about toy soldiers or Vampire the Masquerade Fifth Edition or I don't know, you name it. Uh-huh. 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 Right. Hello, other person out there in the world watching. Feel free to comment and ask me what the hell I am doing. I can show you what I'm already doing, what I've already done, which is this guy here in Blood Angels Red Contrast Medium. So it gives a lot of shading already. But as I'm painting, I'm talking about any miniatures, not miniatures gaming, RPGs like Vampire 5th Edition, because I was running that at UK Games Expo, and that was a lot of fun. So if you've got any questions about that, or any other World of Darkness or Chronicles of Darkness games, or any other RPGs, just go for it. I can see the stream chat there. I am at your disposal as I slap paint on there. I should make sure it's under the camera as I do that, because what's the point then? You know, what is the point? So as you can see, this stuff just goes on rather liberally with a big brush, and you get immediately shading and the right color. So yeah, if you're watching this, you can say hello. It's rather boring here. I'm on my own, talking to the void. Obviously, if you're new to Darker Days Radio, we've been going for 10 years, and we review books. World of Darkness books, Chronicles of Darkness books. We interview the writers and we give you honest reviews because we're not paid by White Wolf, Onyx Path or anyone, but we do like demoing games we love, so we will be demoing more games. I believe Mike will be in the process of figuring out what he's doing for PAX Unplugged, which is later this year. And I have got coming up, I need to finalise some things to do with the Gen Con UK satellite events that are going on, and there are only 2 satellite events outside of the US, and my aim is to run some V5 using a brand new scenario that we've been writing called the Araman Contract, which will feature the Ashira and other interesting things, and that will be free to download once we've playtested it and, you know, done some sexy layout to it. But yeah, if you're listening and you're watching this right now, by all means, ask any other questions, like about the paints, even anything else about UK Games Expo, or games that are coming out that you think I should know about that are good. Go for it. I will have to have some more coffee in a moment. This is, I've done like, though I've painted like fucking 6 miniatures already. This is number 7. So we're doing great. Yeah, they're going to be boss, and like I said, I need to get another primer, another kind of primer. Spray up the spray up the Gene Stealers, and we'll be gold. It's mostly the wrong time for people, you know. I guess what it's 11 o'clock here, minus 8 hours. It's 3 p.m. West Coast time. Because I was out in San Francisco about 2 weeks ago. A week ago? Yeah. So, yeah, that was fun. So as I said, with the contrast paints, you could, like here, you see where you've got the Aquila on the miniature, you could just kind of paint around it. You could use a smaller brush, basically, I'm saying, and ignore that area, and then go back in once it's dry with a contrast yellow paint. Or you could go back in with a paintbrush, repaint that area very thinly with a basic grey colour, and reapply then on top the contrast paint of your choice, which is really good. I can imagine like contrast paint's going to be amazing on also models with like lots of organic kind of muscle structure. So this is why it's going to be really interesting to do another stream of this with the painting of the Gene Stealers, so you can see what that's like. I mean, really, it's just so I got these guys painted up quite quickly. Still look the part on playing Space Hulk at least, and I can get the gist of what these paints work like without doing anything too crazy. But I've got like the entirety of Blackstone Fortress paint. Other things then, yeah, so everything that Clara said about Clara Herbal said about Fall of London, and like how vampires go into the underground, and the entire scenario set down there sounds amazing and can be used for any area of the world. So it'll be just as applicable. You could use that type of scenario for like Berlin or Paris that also have the underground, you know, metro system. Apparently creatures that live down there, so maybe we're getting some other vampiric creatures that live deep underground. That's a bit The Descent maybe even is as inspiration. We'll see. Obviously also been and gone recently was free RPG Day. I didn't bother. There wasn't really anything I wanted. There was a lot of Pathfinder and Starfinder. They're not my cups of tea. I don't know if James picked up any. He might be able to do some reviews for us on Darker Days Radio of the gear he got. Yeah, I'm coming up on the 1 hour, 10 minutes before the 1 hour mark. So I would say in another half hour or so, these will all be painted, which is impressive in its own right. I mean, I could really, it's almost, yeah, definitely I want to get like that Ruin and Rapture box. Or if you've got one, send it to me, please, please, please. I mean, that'll be great fun because I want some more armies for Age of Sigmar to try some things out as well. The other stuff I'm really looking forward to from V5 is obviously the Hecate, so the death cults, death gods, death clans. So, the Giovanni, Cappadocians, Samedi, all under one book, and learning more about how their discipline, their interpretation of the discipline, Oblivion operates with both the La Sombra version of it, or usage of that with and then also the side which deals with the undead and necromancy. So that's going to be cool. What else happened at Expo that was fun to play or try out? Oh, Grimlord Games, yeah. So we're getting sent some free miniatures from Grimlord Games. They do a game called, let me think, Village Attacks. Now, Village Attacks is a board game, miniatures board game, which is a tower defense game where you play the monsters. So yeah, you've got a vampire, a banshee, a necromancer type character, or some such lich. You get the idea. Etc., etc. Those type of creatures in a fantasy medieval setting, and then that means you're fighting the villagers that are invading the castle, and you're also fighting the heroes that they send out to go after you. And it's a really cool little game. We've played it, demoed it locally, and they were going gangbusters on that at UK Games Expo. And of course, they had a final prototype, or I'd say a nearer final prototype, sorry, of Everrain. So Everrain is a horror miniatures game they bring out, which is to do with like kind of Cthulhu type chthonic gods trying to drown the planet. So it's Pirates of the Caribbean feel to it as well, because you've got pirate ships doing exploration. Oh, right. Almost there. Home run. So again, look. Basic grey guy. We just slap on some Blood Angels red. So yeah, well, there's also some interesting things in the process which I really can't talk about yet, gaming wise. But all I can say is like stay tuned, and when we can say something a bit more concrete, we will. So we've got some projects in the works, and we're organising another team up podcast episode where we will be, myself and Mike will be guests on Full Metal RPG, our friends over there, who do some excellent podcasting. They've recently been doing interviews with the guys who develop and design Cult 4th edition. I really suggest you should check those out. Oh, I should have I should have painted this guy's here. Should have painted this, not have slapped it on as much. I'll have to go back in and paint that grey, for the reason that that's a Gene Seal head, so I can actually try out that purple on it before doing any of the others. Idiot. Could have tried that out just like now. Yeah, so we'll be teaming up with Full Metal RPG. And this time we'll be the guests on their podcast. So yeah, it'll be quite interesting to be asked about gaming stuff that we do, and hopefully we'll have some more news we can say when we get there to that point. So that'll be kind of next month when we record it. So a lot of stuff to happen before then. I mean, this works. Well, also at the same time, it's a lot less faff than having to deal with an airbrush, which sometimes clogs. So you've got that. Whereas this, you're just using a brush, and you're just being a bit liberal. One thick coat, and it will do the job. So horses for courses on what you want. You're not going to get airbrush quality kind of blending that you can do. You could do some clever things I've seen with the mediums, where you're basically doing kind of like wet blending with this to get effects. But for quick army done, look at that. That's something pretty good. So now we've got what? Dude with Blood Angel with Thunderhammer and Storm Shield. So I'll mostly use the purples and that also on my Conquest game from Parabellum. So that's an interesting game with like biomancy for the elves. So the elves are a bit like the Durs were like in Confrontation by Rackham. So we'll do that because it allows for very quick painting. Of course, I guess the thing that these contrast paints be really useful for as well, I'm sure you can get some very nice quick effects if you're wanting to paint up anything for, say, the Star Trek game by Modiphius or Fallout. You could consider using the paints there. And if you did so, you know, it'd be interesting if they ever do any vampire miniatures, because then you can use them for that. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but you know, Modiphius has got different plans for different games. You know, you've got Fallout, which is more of a combat game than Vampire, and then you've got, like, you know, Star Trek uses miniatures. You can get miniatures, but that's because you've got quite well-defined characters and so forth, so it mostly fits the theme of that. The question is, do I want to do this shield entirely red? I don't think so. I think I want it a nice gold. Paint on the front, what, gold? Maybe it does need a red to be in the things. Let's do that. You know, on the shield, you'll see the effect there. So look at that. That's totally... yeah, that's totally boring grey shield. And then we're just going to slap this on. And voila, we've got shading and contrast immediately. And it's inked it all as well. So it's all the same tone of red, but with shading built in. Now this stuff can dry a bit glossy, so you're meant to give it a varnish to mattify it a bit, so that helps. And also, I think it's also just to help it adhere better, because it's maybe doesn't key onto models as well as the other paints do, because obviously it's thin to flow over things, not adhere and coat in the same way. Right, one more, and then we'll look at the first one again that we did and see where he's getting with his drawing. So what have we got here? Here we've got one last model. Oh, he's painted a slightly different colour. Hold on, bear with me. Got loads of red on my fingers now. That's not good. This guy is not on the back of this book. That's bloody useless. So what I'm wondering is whether he should be in blue armor or not, because he's a Blood Angels psyker librarian. So just bear with me. I'm going to check. I'm going to put in Games Workshop. And then we're going to put in Space Hulk. Woohoo! And then we'll see what we'll do. Images first. Yep. As I suspected, I meant to paint this guy blue, so I should have picked up a blue bloody contrast medium. Not a problem. What we're going to do is we're going to not do that. Yeah, so I'm just going to apply the red contrast medium to the shoulder pads. Open image, new tab. Let's see if we can get a closer look at this. Yeah, his shoulder pads are red, gun is red. Oh, the guns are red. It's a bit weird. I'm gonna do the gun. I'm gonna do all the bolt guns black for better. They'll pop out a lot better. I'll do his in red, and then his loin is red as well. So we're gonna do that. Okay, here we go then. Let's try and be a bit more delicate with my big fat stubby brush. I've got blue ink, I could always ink him. Oh, that'd be a quick way of doing it. You could then compare and contrast a contrast medium to an ink. So look at this, I've already got stuff because this stuff gets everywhere on my fingers onto the back there, so I'm going to have to go back over that with a so I'm not going to be able to ink him as well as I wanted to today. That's the problem with using a big brush, and also the problem with these because I don't have proper bases. Right, this will be him done for now. But yeah, okay, nice bright. Oh yeah, we want to do his gun, didn't we? Didn't we say his storm bolter? Just do the hood of that like so. And then let him dry, and we can wash this out finally. I know I've got a grey somewhere that I can use. Possibly reapply on the leg. Right, okay, so let's review what we've done and get a feel for it. So, where are you, Mr. Salt Cannon? Dry out. So as you can see, he's got shading already going on. And everything's tinted same red. I guess red is possibly not as easy to see this on. I think most probably like purples, browns, greens will bring out something better. But I mean, it looks like Blood Angel's red, and it has shading, which if you try to do some of this by hand would take you ages. Like if you look around the Crooks Terminator on the shoulder, you can see right in that edge there. It's very hard to see maybe on the camera, but it is a lot darker. So we'll take some pictures of these and we'll get them up online as soon as we can. But I think that's it for now. I don't want to waste your time any more than I want to waste if no one's watching me. But if you've got any questions, any comments about this video, we'll get it up online as soon as we can. Drop us a line at darkerdaysradio@gmail.com. You can find us at darkerdaysradio on Twitter. You can find us, let's do this properly. Where are we? There we go. So yeah, you can get in contact with us via darkerdaysradio@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at darkerdaysradio. You can find us on Facebook, Darker Days Radio. You can find us if you go to www.darker-days.org for the podcast, and from there you can find our Discord. You can also go to our WordPress and you will see stuff that I've painted, and also some reviews and some stuff about UK Games Expo. You can also go to our Instagram, Darker Days Radio, where you will see more stuff about this and other things we're up to. But that's it for now. Those of you that showed up, thank you very much for watching. Those of you who didn't, tough. See you next time. We will do some more painting at some point, which is mostly going to be sooner rather than later, I think, and it's going to involve some gene sealers and possibly we'll do some priming of some other stuff and get ready to paint some things from Blackstone Fortress. So that's all. So ciao for now. And this is where I say goodbye.